Hi, this is Caryn Solomon, and welcome to my podcast, Crushing On. Welcome to episode 14. Today on the show, we are joined by Tarryn Cardre. She is the host and creator of the podcast, What's a Quarantee, which is an excellent show. She talks more about it in the episode, so I don't want to say too much, but like from my point of view, I feel like if this isn't a podcast you've listened to, you really need to give it a try. I put it as number one in my list of South African podcasts that I love on my newsletter this week, but also it's such an interesting podcast. Like, they discuss everything from racial identity to classism to education, and you know how those things intercede with each other. She has insightful guests, and the way they talk about it just makes you feel enlightened. And I know that during this trying time, things aren't easy, but it's so nice to hear different people and different types of people discussing issues which are important to us. So I'm going to link to it in the show notes, so please check it out. While Tarryn was here, we got along really well, and we chatted about a whole lot of things, from reality shows, which she says helps her take her mind off like all the hectic stuff which they discuss in the show. We also talk about colored identity. We chat about microaggressions on The Bachelor season 2, and the new book Mermaid Fillet by Mia Arden, which we were both reading when I interviewed her. But before we get to that, I just have a few notices. Number one, it's the 3-month anniversary of Crushing On, so I would like to thank every one of you who supports, who listens, who shares the show. I mean, we wouldn't have made it this far if it wasn't for you, and we are eternally grateful to you. So if you are a listener and you haven't shared it with a friend, maybe as a 3-month anniversary to us, maybe share the love with your friends. Also, number 2, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, Crushing On Club, please do so. Links in the show notes. You can search for it on Facebook. It's a lot of fun. We share news, we share recommendations, and it's a great way for people who love pop culture and entertainment to interact. And it's fun. People share memes. It's really cute. And the third thing was, we are obviously recording from home. Well, we are remote recording, and unfortunately at this moment in time, there are renovations being done to my home, so which means that during some of the interviews you might hear construction sounds, and it was quite prevalent in this interview with Tarryn today. So I'm just warning you, if you hear like a or any kind of funny sound, it's probably work being done. And yeah, just keeping it 100 with you guys. Somebody posted a meme, or when they're like, if color culture doesn't exist, and someone's like, if color culture doesn't exist, why is my house constantly being renovated? And I felt that on a deep level. I actually think that was Reva. So shout out to Reva on Sing From Her Hair on Twitter for that perfectly timed meme that I felt it in my soul. But anyway, I don't want to keep you any longer. Please take a listen, share the show, rate and review, and here's the interview with Tarryn. Hi Tarryn, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hi Caryn, thank you so much. I am well, how are you?
I'm okay, can't complain. So have you been keeping busy during the quarantine?
Well, like yourself, I started a podcast. Obviously it's been tough for everybody, and I mean, mental health wise, it's not easy and stuff. And for me, while I'm not clinically diagnosed with depression, I recognize that I do suffer from that, and like in bouts and stuff. And I didn't want that to be a huge point of contention for me during this period, because I knew it was going to be tough, especially because I'm like in a long distance relationship and I haven't seen my partner since the first week of Jan.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been rough, but I decided to start my podcast because it was something that I wanted to do with my business in any case. I was in the fashion industry in e-commerce, and I had a platform for local designers. And part of what I wanted to bring into the platform was having these podcasting discussions with other entrepreneurs and fashion designers, or fashion entrepreneurs rather. And yeah, obviously because I was doing the platform, the e-commerce stuff, as well as pop-up shops. I didn't have time to do the podcasting things, and it wasn't like something that I was entirely comfortable with.
No, I know exactly how you feel.
And so I just I guess lockdown, pulled that out of me. I think it's managed to do that for a lot of us. We'll be doing things that we wouldn't have thought about doing, and we surprising ourselves with how interesting ways on how we are dealing, and innovative ways of even managing depression and stuff like that. So basically, yeah, that's how I've been dealing with lockdown. I created a podcast.
I can highly relate, because for me too, it was something I kind of wanted to do, but I procrastinated actually starting, because having to record my voice was, I don't know, the scariest thing ever. So I just kept on procrastinating till it was locked down. I couldn't go anywhere. And then I was unemployed.
Nobody likes the sound of their voice.
No, definitely. It was so funny for me that I went into this because I hated interviewing people before, because I hated transcribing because the sound of my voice. And I was like, oh, I have to listen to the sound of my... And now it's okay, now I want to do this every week. We have to constantly listen to the sound of my own voice. One of your episodes, I think you were talking to Ling, and you were talking about phone voices and how your accent changes.
The code switching, yeah. It's real. I do it often, even on the podcast. But you know what? That's just something that I've now decided is part of who I am, and I'm not going to change that. I can code switch as I go, and if I don't feel like doing that, I'm not going to,
Because people always say, like my family will be like, they find it so funny when I'm doing the intro and I'm talking alone. Then I have an accented voice, but the minute I'm in the conversation, it's it drops little by little. And when I have to talk to somebody, the real Caryn will always come out. So I know the code switching works
You said the real Caryn, and I heard the real Tarryn, and I was like, yep, that's me. That's me. I always start out so very raw, and then 1, 2, 3, dak op 'n date.
So tell me, this is officially the first time we've met, other than chatting on socials and stuff. So tell me about you, what I should know about you.
Ooh. Okay, let me give you the socially acceptable version. Basically, I am a 35-year-old Black woman. I am an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for the past 5 years now, it's been a hell of a ride, to be honest. It's hectic. We also live in a space where it's not always accessible for people of color to understand how entrepreneurship works. When I came into the space, obviously the landscape changes. So even with podcasting now, I'm meeting new podcasters like you and whatever because of the hashtags that I'm putting out, and obviously the content that's being shared and whatever, so it works in the same way with entrepreneurship. And so meeting all these people, I saw how extremely white these places are, first of all. But it was also life-changing, because when you become an entrepreneur, you have to start viewing yourself in a way that isn't very it's not always so liquor, because you have to shine a spotlight on your shortcomings, and it becomes like, and I'm not saying that this is for everybody. I'm speaking completely from my experience, but for me, it became like very hard to see the good things that we were doing as young entrepreneurs. I had a business partner as well, and yeah, it was interesting to grow in that space. And I'm still doing that. That hasn't ended. And because I can't see myself going back to corporate as much as I am like craving a salary, like steady month to month salary. There's also things that I wouldn't have been able to do, like travel the world and, or not the world, I just went to Europe, but like I wouldn't have been able to do that for months on end if I didn't have a business that was so mobile. And yeah, there's just like a lot of things that you get to learn about yourself, and it isn't always pretty. But there's also like you tend to take stock of the things that are like super important. And when there is a win, it's like, confetti flying everywhere, even if it's like just something small, like getting into a program. Because your business plan was like, up to scratch and stuff, like that means a lot because you're getting feedback from these people whom you like admire, who have been, doing amazing things within the space. And yeah, so there's obviously pros and cons wherever you go. But about me, that's me on a very sort of surface nutshell kind of thing. I think you're going to have to ask more in-depth questions for anything else.
So, you were saying that, being a person of color in majority white spaces, how did you deal with that?
Not very well. Obviously, from an external point of view, it looks fine on the outside, but on an internal point of view, it's hectic because you have to censor yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to get invited to certain circles. And for me, my whole thing was that I wanted to be a person on my own. Well, that's how it started out. As you move along, you realize that you can't do things alone. You have to bring people in and widen your network and collaborate. And so collaboration has become like a huge tenet of how I work. I believe that's the only way that especially, Black folks can come together and create a different bar for ourselves, in terms of how we relate to each other, how we support each other, and how we can eventually thrive together. And being in a predominantly white space within entrepreneurship, I kind of just had to take in what I needed and let the rest go. And it was very important for me to not just collaborate with any person that wanted to come in, because I feel like a lot of times when white people want to work with us, they do it from a place of wanting to outwardly show that they are quote unquote woke. I hate that term, but to get the point across. It's like for cookie points, and I don't feel that they necessarily do the internal work to appreciate our presence in working with them. And I think also people don't realize that, especially working with people who are strong on wanting to decolonize things, like, you can't just come into this space and think like, oh, I'm going to get brownie points because I'm working with people who understand the dynamics of intersectionality and stuff like that. And I'm just going to ride on that wave until I've sort of gotten everything that I need out of it, because ultimately, like, heads are going to bat because I'm not going to take your cuck, first of all, And so I feel like a lot of people don't like get it. And so I think, like, to a certain extent, I do put off a slightly rough exterior that white people like to call sassy. And I'm fine with that because you need to know your place with me. I don't think that you can just come in and use me, for clout. I'm not your token black. I'm sorry. So that's how I feel about working in those spaces. I just kind of and I think like for a lot of us, we do take in what we need and discard the rest, which is, the microaggressions, like I said, the cloud seeking stuff. I think we take what we need and we leave what we don't.
I have such a problem with microaggressions. So like I can't. For me, it's like I think I'm very polite, but I can never be anyone other than myself. So if I'm not happy with something you say, I'm going to say something about it, which doesn't always bode well. And then you usually see the people who play the game are the ones that get promoted, or the ones that, get the opportunities, which I suppose is frustrating because as people of color, we have to kind of toe that line, which is kind of unfair because why should we be anyone less than ourselves in our workplaces?
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important for us to create our own spaces. But of course, the economic advantages, they don't lay with us for the most part. And so I also don't blame people who feel that they do have to toe the line to get ahead. I mean, at the end of the day, that's your bag. You've got to survive. And if you are in a position where you can take the risk and, go against the grain, then sure. Please, if you ever feel that you are in that position, please do it that way and don't do it the way that I do, which is just telling everybody they be. So, okay, I don't do that. I do it in subtle ways. But it's just it's dependent on what you are willing to take. Everybody has a certain threshold, I think. And I feel like sometimes people don't even know that these quote unquote microaggressions are actually happening. And, microaggressions is such like a funny label because is it micro when it feeds into the greater experience of who we are and what we have to deal with? I mean, it's not micro when it's like something you experience every day at every point, from the economic majority or those who hold the economic majority in this country. So I think we actually had this conversation. I think I had it with Ling, where it's actually that everything is a macroaggression, and it's why sometimes it seems like we're overreacting. It's not an overreaction, it's a reaction because this shit happens day in and day out. What do you expect? Just because you don't, experience discrimination from a racial point of view or from a gender point of view doesn't mean that these instances don't occur, and they are violent. I actually just had a conversation with a guest of mine on my show yesterday, Zoe Black, and we were talking about how when you are in a position to recognize discrimination, it is your job to stand up. Okay, it's obviously it's up to you if you're going to do that or not, but ethically, morally, it's your job to stand up when something is not right. And I mentioned, but if you are stuck in an echo chamber that feeds a narrative that you are not used to because you haven't experienced discrimination, how do you know that what you're doing is wrong? you know. And in South Africa, especially in like, where we are in the Western Cape, spatial apartheid has not ended. And so people still operate within these silos. And yes, there are certain Black folks who rise above and into the ranks that, quote unquote, matter. But it obviously took a lot for them to get there, and that meant toeing the line, which means that they had to, drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, of what it means to continuously exclude people and work from this mediator's point of view. Like, you can only get ahead if you're going to do well in certain areas, but that doesn't take into consideration what it takes for some people to get to that point. I have a car. I can drive to work. I also live in proximity to amenities and things like that, right? So I have a certain level of privilege. But for like someone living probably outside of the city and having to take, 4 buses, having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Are you mad? 4 o'clock in the morning. You know how deep, deep, deep. In fact, you know what? I'm not deep because I can't sleep anymore. So which means by 4 o'clock, 4:30, I'm getting my second sleep for the night. You know what I mean? Because like I can't sleep. But imagine now you can't sleep. It's lockdown. I'm sure it wasn't lockdown at that point, but if you think about it, like now it's lockdown, a lot of us are struggling with insomnia, and you wake up at 12 o'clock. You can only fall asleep at like 3 o'clock, and now you have to get up at 4 o'clock to go to this job that doesn't appreciate the work that you're putting out. That is like the privilege that people don't want to acknowledge when it comes to these things. And it's because we live so separated from each other, that we don't understand other people's lifestyles and why it is that they have to go through the things that they are going through.
So why did you decide to start What's the Quarantee?
Well, I mean, like I said, I wanted to do it, I wanted to start a podcast anyway. I just didn't have the guts to. And I was sitting with my friend one time, and we were watching The Bachelor season 2 SA, and after each episode we would discuss what's happening and like how frustrated we are with like everything, and what are the lulls behind it and all that stuff. And then I was like, wait a minute, look here, we need to record what we are saying, because I feel like, honestly, like in general, with the friendship circle that I have, we would sit around my dining room table and we would just talk so much and so much like of importance. And I would sometimes marvel at my friends who are around me, and I'd feel like I'm a little fly on the wall. You never get to be in situations where you can just listen to brilliant minds speaking their minds unfiltered and just so beautifully encompassing what certain experiences are like, And I thought about that a lot. And then when we were watching The Bachelor and we would have our conversations afterwards, I was like, nah, man, look here, we need to record the things that we are saying, because I feel like so many people would want to listen to what we have to say. Like, we have important views here that need to get out, okay? And we're going to be loved and rejoiced all over. We started off very shakily with our audio, and we started off on, I think it was episode 9 or 10 on The Bachelor season 2, and we went in Like, we even had a nickname for Mark, which was Mark Butner, because I said it by accident. So, um, so we had that going, and yeah, we posted it all over, and Mark even followed my co-host at that time. And yeah, it was just like, it was such a laugh. Like, and but we also like discussed the things that are important to us, which is like the issues of race and gender and how it worked within that scenario on The Bachelor.
Okay, so then how did you decide to move it from being about The Bachelor to more general social issues?
I mean, well, like I was saying, we had discussed within The Bachelor the issues that are important to us with regards to race and gender. And so it was very easy for me to then bring my friends on to say, like, well, let's talk about the other stuff, outside of TV shows and stuff. Because you know what actually happened, Caryn, was that I use reality TV as a way to numb a lot of the things that I think about. Because, if you listen to the things that we talk about on my podcast, which is What's the Quarantee, by the way, we haven't plugged me yet. But we deal with like hectic topics, and it's a lot. And so like I like to sort of cancel the noise out with a lot of reality TV. Like, I'm obsessed with Real Housewives. I am obsessed. Like, it was recently Selling Sunset on Netflix. It was like amazing. And then of course there was Love is Blind, and of course The Bachelor. And so when we were discussing The Bachelor on the pod, something that I found joy in started to become more of a task, and I didn't want to feel like that. And my co-host at the time felt the same way, like, oh, now we have to watch this week in order to report, the next day after the episode and stuff. And we were just like, nah, man, we don't like list for that kind of pressure. We've got so many other things going on. Like, we don't want to put that on ourselves. And so I said, like, well, you know what, I want to talk about like other things. And it wasn't that difficult, like I said, because we had spoken about those kind of issues within the entertainment episodes that I had. It was really easy to go into that because people know me. They know how I am. Like, I don't like to waffle about and stuff. And it was really easy to get into the content that I'm doing right now.
So you were saying that through the hectic stuff, you kind of numb it by watching reality shows. So you said you like Real Housewives.
I love the Real Housewives.
Did you watch all of them?
No, not all of them. I watched like Beverly Hills and Potomac and Married to Medicine.
Oh, is that separate?
It's still part of Bravo.
Okay.
So it's like the same kind of format.
Oh, okay. So which one did you say is like the best one if you want to like start watching?
If you want to start watching, I would say, if you want to start watching now, I would say probably go with Potomac. But the thing is, like, you have to watch from the beginning, man. Like, because the storylines are so like, because the housewives interact over the franchises. So if you want to
crossovers, and
they don't they do some with Married to Medicine and Real Housewives of Atlanta. They cross over sometimes because they're based in the same city, but with the other ones it's more like crossing over in terms of Twitter fingers and petty beef that they have with each other. And so there's a lot that I miss, but I know that there's a lot that's gone on, and so it's nice to like get in on it from the beginning so that you like, I don't know, I don't like to miss out on stuff. I am okay. No.
I'm the same. Like, I can never start watching something now. Like, I would have, because I started watching Beverly Hills, but I watched like some of the first season and I was like, I'll get back to this again. There's just so many episodes. But I do like the kind of drama that they have there. It's like it's manufactured, but they're so good that it looks real. You know what I mean? Like they've got a good way of balancing like the reality of it and the supposedly planned.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult with Beverly Hills because so many of them used to be actors or are still actors. And so you never really know if they're just doing it for the soap factor of it all. But either which way, it's still liquor to watch. I'm sorry, and I know it's problematic because we're capitalizing on women and stereotyping women as being catty and bitchy and stuff like that. But I mean, sometimes it's just liquor.
It's nice to see people react in ways that you wish you could react, but you but you keep yourself, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you want to charge at that person, but you're thinking like, no, it's okay. Meanwhile,
I mean, girl, sometimes I feel like I should have a reality show because I mean, I'm probably drama, but it's like easy drama. It's like silly. It's so silly. And sometimes I think I'm in a reality show. But I mean, I don't know. It's fun. It's nice. It's just mindless fun, you know. And yes, sometimes it can be problematic. Well, all the time it's problematic. But I mean, it's just a way to decompress in a sense.
So what else do you enjoy like watching other than The Real Housewives?
So I am obsessed with true crime. And even within podcasting, true crime was like, I love true crime podcasts. You know, some of my favorites are from Tenderfoot TV, which, you know, they've done shows like the Atlanta Monster, the Zodiac Killer, and Up and Vanished. And it is just so like, I marvel at how beautifully produced these shows are. So I enjoy true crime. And of course, the true crime on Netflix. And one of my other favorite shows are shows based on true crime as well, like Narcos and Narcos Mexico. In fact, actually, I prefer Mexico over the original Colombian one. And yeah, what are the other shows? Selling Sunset. That's a great one. That's a decent one.
Tell me about this. I saw it. It's about women selling, being like real estate peoples. Tell me more.
They're real estate agents, and it's about them selling stuff. But then it's also about the cattiness between the women and all that. So, I think they live on such a level of wealth that is so seemingly unattainable at my level right now. I'm not saying that I'll never get there because I'm going to be a rich bitch one day. I'm sure of it. But, I mean, it's so like far removed from where we are. It's something else to watch. But it's basically the same premise, just within the industry of real estate, you know, and just exorbitance of money. The money is just like, it's ridiculous. And yeah, it's just so removed. Yeah, so that's why I like it. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain that.
But it is like also like, you know, if I was in that position, what would I do? Because I know when I was watching The Real Housewives and Carl had a birthday party for a child. Carl and I don't know, the blonde one, Taylor. Anyway, they had birthday parties for their children. And I was like, if I was a rich person, would I give my child diamonds? I didn't think so. Or would I? Like, I used to love my Super Sweet 16 when I was at school. Because I was like, the wildest birthday party ever. If you must come in a horse and a carriage, if you must go outside and cry because your dad didn't buy the color car that you wanted. Like, for me, it's just like, it's craziness, but it's so addictive.
It's scary how addictive these shows are. I've never watched Sweet 16 or whatever it's called. But that, yeah, like I was saying, the display of wealth it is ridiculous. And I mean, I don't know if I'd ever do that like for my kids, but I guess I feel like a lot of them didn't come from wealth.
Mm.
And so it's like that with new money, regardless of race. You want to, showing what you can purchase. Purchasing power has a certain leverage to it. And so when you can show what a big fancy house you have, all the super cool cars that you can buy, the latest of everything, I mean, that gives off a level of power to some people, that they aren't want to be messed with because they have economic power. And that's what runs the world, really.
So with the whole podcast thing, so what have you found has been like the biggest lesson that you've learned? How long has it been since you started? April?
Yeah, like now. I don't think that I don't know if I've learned anything. Oof, that's an odd question. I can't say I've learned anything from podcasting other than being very deliberate about putting melanated voices out there. But that's been a thing for me. In any case, it's just a different medium to be using now. I would say I have not learned anything yet.
That's fine. Okay, so then what would you say was the most exciting moment for you since starting? Like what moment gave you joy?
I mean, literally every episode is a joy, but the most exciting was my guest of 2 episodes ago, which is Patrick Malay. And Patrick is an icon. And I've been wanting to have a one-on-one with him forever. I've been following him since like 2016. And I reached out to him finally. I reached out to him before, like to comment on a blog that I'd done before and stuff on colored culture. But it wasn't enough for me. I wanted more from this man who gives us so much. But the most exciting part for me was when I was able to reach out to him and he said yes and gave me a 4.5-hour episode that is completely iconic and I feel has the power to change so many people's lives in terms of how they see each other and how they interact with politics and how they see themselves as, especially as people who identify as colored,
Yeah.
I mean, even in that episode myself, like I felt so ignorant purely because this man has been in politics like from the womb. Yeah, it was just so exciting to be able to get that caliber of person onto my show. Of course, everybody that's come onto the show is like amazing, but this is like a person who's gone through the struggle. He's been exiled. He's, unfortunately been tortured. He has a world of experience that we don't hear about. Everything is rainbowism that, rainbowism this, and I'm so tired of dealing with misinformation. I mean, something that I spoke about in that episode, as well as an episode with my friend Ling, was that my son, he's in primary school and they're learning about history, and one of the topics or one of the exercises that they had to do was that they have to pretend that they are a European sailor arriving in South Africa, and they need to diarize what the sailor is experiencing. And I lost my entire fucking shit. Okay? Because what the fuck? This is a child who had slave history, slave origins, how can basic education, it's probably called basic education for a reason, but how can they do this to a country of children who are learning? They want to perpetuate the same kak all the time, okay? And because it's like within schools, it means that we have to, the few of us who are moving towards decolonization have to do extra work. And then on top of it, tell these children, you gotta just do this work in order to pass, but this is incorrect. Please understand that school, what you are learning here, I'm paying to send you to the school, but what you're learning is bullshit. And I can't get you out of it. It's such a messed up system, Caryn. Like, it's so disheartening on so many levels, because we are a failed country, I would say, when we cannot give our children the means to critically think about what it means to be a colonized country. And for these reasons that we can't do that, we are still a colonized country.
Yeah.
And that's just only in one aspect of it. So, sorry, I've gone off the point a little bit.
But I mean, you were talking about like the misinformation, and I mean, I listened to that entire 4 hours of that interview, which is another reason why I really like podcasts. I was thinking, because if you're on a radio show, if you're on a TV show, you have a limited time with which you can work in. And I was actually speaking to my sister, because she's a big fan of Patrick as well. And I was like, oh my word, you must listen to this, to the interview. And I was like, I wouldn't have been able to cut anything from that, because what he said such important things, and it was so interesting. It had to exist in its entirety, which is why I love podcasts, because you have the flexibility with which to do that.
The most amazing thing for me out of that episode was that I didn't have to edit anything out. I'm so grateful that out of that 4.5-hour episode, all I needed to edit out was the one time that, and I paused the interview at that point because I told Patrick I'm expecting a package to arrive. So that was the only thing I needed to sort of cut out, and I made a marking of the time as well. So, but Patrick has a wealth of knowledge, and he just knows. He just went with it. I didn't even really have to. I mean, I'm hardly even present on that episode. It's just literally an entire lecture, which I probably should copyright. But it's just it's amazing that. Well, that is the beauty of podcasting, is that you can get information in a way you can clean your house, you can go on a road trip, you can do whatever you want. Not a lot of activity is required from you, and so you can take in information in a different way, and also the information that you're getting is not necessarily the information that is going to be on the mainstream. And it's why I hate radio. I find it so plastic and surface, and the people who go on radio and have these personalities and make money from being completely problematic and stuff like that. I find that so disgusting. And so I do hope that this medium of podcasting does take off within South Africa. And not from this, I've seen some of the podcasts going around in South Africa, and it's all, again, surface bullshit. But you know what? The nice thing is now is that you as the consumer can decide what you want to.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of podcasting.
Because I was thinking, as you were saying, you're saying it's a lecture, and I'm like, it's such a great way to democratize education. Because before you want to go to a lecture, you got to either pay, or you've got to make your way to some campus somewhere, which is probably far, and that's the only way you kind of get that information. Yes, things change with TED Talks and that kind of stuff, but here there's so many other ways to get access to information. Podcasts are free. You can listen, you can get all this information for free. which is amazing.
Absolutely. And for me, the number one thing is that I always say on my end as well is that, bitch, I ain't go to university. Okay, I did go 3 times and never finished any of my degrees. But the fact is that the way it's set up is so elitist, and the language that is used is not always inviting. And it's set up like that for a purpose, because they want to have certain minds having access to certain things. So even with the stuff that Patrick is talking about and the things that I've spoken to Ling about and stuff like that, like, you only get access to that kind of information once you've actually come into these universities and stuff like that, you know? And so it's up to persons who went to these elite universities to give us the information, but then they also can't because, hello, struggle, survival, you know. And then once you're in the working place, you don't have time to be, you know, educating people. And so I have a great respect for people like Patrick who've used their time and their knowledge to put it out there in the world, and with like minimal pay and with fucking death threats. You know what I mean? Like, let's be real. Nobody wants this information to come out. There is a definite plan, and this is not conspiracy theories or anything like that. There is a definite part not only of like active government, but people who fund government and the old regime that's still very much a part of the current National Party, leading party, that has vested interest in keeping South Africans dormant to what our actual history is, you know? So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
So now that you've had Patrick on, who would be your dream guest next? Are we talking?
Oh my God. Issa Rae. Ah! I would die to have Issa Rae as a guest on my show. I would
it took you like a second, like you didn't even pause. You just like,
I don't need to think about it. This bitch has everything going on. Okay, she started on YouTube. She, you know, put a show out there and got picked up on HBO and just completely killed the game. I feel like she's a pioneer almost for millennial stories coming up, you know, and millennial Black stories coming out. And I think we don't have that same kind of ability here in South Africa, but it serves as inspiration, you know, to be deliberate about what we're putting out there. And so, like, one of the things that I always try to push with this platform that I have is that we need to amplify melanated voices and amplify melanated South African voices, and deconstruct the things we think we know, because we don't know everything.
yeah.
And so it's important for shows like yours and shows like mine to give representation for the people that, or for the communities that we come from.
So if you had to describe what's a Quarantee, how would you describe the podcast?
I would describe the podcast as a space where folks can come together and learn about each other, a space where we can share with each other. We also have a Facebook group, for example, where we discuss the episodes like after they've been released and stuff. And sometimes I ask for people to give their questions beforehand, because I do want it to be an interactive space where people feel that they're not being spoken to, more that they are a part of the unlearning and relearning things. But it's essentially a space where we need to come through and relearn, deconstruct everything that we know and rebuild it, really. Because I'm interested in a future where capitalism is not the end all and be all of our lives. I understand that we have to exist in that frame, but I don't believe that it is a space where Black people can thrive. And when I say Black people, I mean myself as well, who has a colored culture. But for me, I believe colored people are Black people. And that is something that came through with my episode with Patrick as well. Because I used to say, like, I'm politically Black but culturally colored, but I didn't really believe it because I'm so deep within colored culture. How do you separate that and all of that stuff? And with listening to how because I had posed the question to Patrick, because I feel like identity is something that people of colored culture struggle with so much, and it's debilitating to a certain extent. It was debilitating to me because, like, I can't focus on any fucking thing else, because I don't know where I'm supposed to be placed. And so I feel outside of so many things. But, when he explained things the way that he explained it, I was able to embrace the concept completely. And therefore, I can now put that in a box and be like, okay, cool. Now I can do the work that I got to do. You know what I mean? That was really liberating for me, and that just shows how I've learned through the information that comes through on the podcast, even for me as the host, like, I'm also unlearning. So the space is about learning. I would describe the space as a place to come and put your cuck in a box and let's unpack it. Let's throw the things that you have a problem with and let's sort it out one by one, That's what I would say what the show represents for me. And I also want to say that the name is probably going to change because we're coming out of quarantine and lockdown and stuff like that, and it's just not going to make sense anymore. So it's going to change at some point. But essentially that's what the show is about. And I think it's also specifically focused on the identity crisis of people who call themselves colored. I definitely want to focus on that end, amongst other things. But that's like where the core messaging lies.
I'm a big fan of podcasts. So I think I was first drawn to the Bachelor thing because I've been watching The Bachelor. I had so many issues. So I was originally like reviewing The Bachelor when I still had a job. And that was what I was doing. And my thing is that I didn't want to listen to a podcast of white people, I'm going to say, discussing the episodes because I felt that so many of the issues was race related and they didn't see that, which is what drew me to yours. Because I thought that's interesting because we have like people of color discussing the episode. And the funny thing for me is because I listened to it again and I was like, the funny thing for me is that when you said, I don't want to watch anymore, my friend and I, we reviewed it for different publications and I'd WhatsApped her and I was like, I'm done. If this was not my job, I would be stopping watching right here. And then I listened to your episode and you said exactly the same thing. But it is great. Like someone had commented to me that what they liked about my podcast was that they're hearing someone talk about something that they're interested in, but in an accent that they know. and it's weird because like we are so I feel like we are so starved for representation.
We are.
Be willing to get it wherever we can because so for me it was like I want to hear women who sound like me or who come from a similar background to me talking about this thing that affected me so much. Because when I had watched that episode with, I don't know if you remember, when they were spinning the wheel. I know this was a while.
My God. Literally, that scene will never leave my life.
It
Girl!
made me I think I watched it twice because I was so mad the first time that I had to watch it again just to understand what went down. And then there was a moment when, okay, so it's been a while since I watched, so you're going to have to deal with me. Anderleen, she said that Molesa is most likely to be a liar. And then she went back and said, no, it's because you're so clever, whatever. And then I saw Molesa's face. And then I heard it, like she said to Quinny, so she was like, they don't even really know us. Do they even know that you're doing your masters? And just that her face, and as she said that, and it triggered something so deep inside me, where people have said insulting remarks to you, and they played it off saying like, no, I didn't think he would like you because you're too pretty, or I didn't think that I thought you were too clever for that. You know what I mean? Like whether you knew that wasn't their initial reaction.
You're firing me up now. It's so funny because that's the exact episode that I thought of when you asked me to come onto the show. Because that episode, I felt, defined what the fuckery was on The Bachelor season 2. I didn't watch season 1. I heard it was boring. But with that episode, what had happened was, I think Mark had asked the question, who is a liar or something like that? Or who's deceived? Something like that. Something to do with lying.
Yeah, who's most likely,
who's most likely to lie? And Anderleen and her little group of other white bitches had said, well, Anderleen was the one that had said it, but they had agreed with her once she had said it, which was basically, I think that Molesa is most likely to lie because, it's because she's a lawyer and lawyers lie, right? But who do you think you are? And how old are you? Lawyers lie? Are you like 5? Come on. And I don't want to be like ageist. I don't think children think like that. But it's like the level of critical thinking is non-existent, Anderleen. That episode like really cut deep. And it was very indicative of how white women move in the spaces. They say snarky ass shit disguised with all this niceness and damsel in distressness. And, oh no, I would never do anything like that. And, I don't like that at all. I'm sorry, you can cut that if you want. Like, I don't mind if you keep it on, like you can cut it. But like, that is such an unfair, and this is what we experience. Like, this is like how, in a way, what was put out on The Bachelor was good because we can see, basically.
That's how I felt, exactly.
Women who are Black are treated. And women of colored culture, who are also Black, by the way, for your listeners. And, like, I just feel like it was a great way to show that. Like, I like the fact that the producers didn't cut that, probably because they didn't even see it as a problem. And then, and this is just how whiteness operates. Once a white woman says something to a white man, he immediately believes it, regardless of the fact that she's never showed him that that's how she is.
Exactly. Like, I mean,
basing it based on the fact that you trust this white woman more than you trust a Black woman. And that's how it is. That's how it is.
But it's so stupid. Like, how can you trust anyone in the house because they always want to make themselves feel better? Like, that's a bit dumb for me.
So, I'm so glad Issa was picked as the
but it does make me wonder about the bachelors they will pick for her. Because, do you watch The American Bachelorette? Well, I've only seen one season. So
no, I haven't watched The Bachelorette. I've only watched the last season of The Bachelor, which I completely bowled for. They just know how to do drama.
I I watched the Bachelorette season with Rachel, which is the only black Bachelorette or black anything before the like upcoming Bachelor. But anyway, but then they had a guy in there who was very probably like a plant, but he was a bit racist. So he would always pick fights with the black guys in the house and then like say, I don't know why you're getting so aggressive about this. Like, it was the worst. And then like, once you watch it, you can see he's clearly not there for her. So, and then she's called him out, like, so like they added a racist contestant. So it makes me nervous of who they're going to add as her bachelors.
That's not cool.
Like, it makes me stress a bit because I'm like, I hope they don't put someone.
Using our existence for capitalism.
Exactly.
On your show. That's bullshit.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm hoping that they pick someone.
No, wait. That's trash. Please tell me more about what had happened.
So
wow, they literally brought in a white person to stir up some shit.
It seems like that because it did not seem like he was there for her at all. And all he was doing was
Twitter say?
I mean, it was a while ago. I think Twitter thinks so. Because Rachel's now married, but she's also, like, she spoke out against it kind of recently.
Wasn't Rachel the one that was on The Bachelor season 12? That short with the dark hair? No.
She's black.
Oh, black. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why it was a problem, because if he's a racist, he's clearly not there for her. But he didn't make it. He never tried with her or anything. And he just riled up the other guys. But yeah, she wrote about it and she like said about they purposely cast the white
wow. But then doesn't she have a choice in who she chooses?
Yeah, she sent him out.
Oh,
she did, because he was like almost.
Was it in the?
He got quite far, I think. I can't really remember. It was a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think in the end she stopped believing his shit because he was kind of like a Bridget. He would make like trouble and then he would go like squeal to her and be like, oh my word, this guy did this did that, and then he was so aggressive with me. But which is I'm like spit ticked. But yeah, Mark and Marissa are back together.
Oh, they're back together.
Yeah. They've been spotted in Canal Walk.
No, I Googled today because I wanted to refresh for the episode, and I didn't see anything like that.
I actually literally just got a WhatsApp now. Mark and Marissa are back together and trying to make it work, according to my friend with direct access to Marissa. So.
Wait, is that what the message said, or is that what you're saying?
No, this is what the message said. I'm plugged in on all the channels to get all the tea.
Oh my god, that relationship is so vanilla. I cannot.
My whole theory about that was that he wanted like a young girl who he could influence, and I don't think that's her. I think she's acting.
Are you kidding me? And this girl has not even turned 25. Oh, wait, she was 24.
She was the youngest. Girl, remember when she spoke French?
Your has not developed, Henny. What is you doing? Kenny.
Who would you say was your first celebrity crush?
I can't believe I'm forgetting his full name. But it was Brandon. Was it Brandon? The dude from The Mummy.
Oh, Brendan Fraser. Yes,
Brendan Fraser. Oh, I died for him. He was everything.
He's so cute.
He was like and it just like shows my penchant for foreign white men.
Is that your type?
I wouldn't say it's my type. I would say everything but a South African man is my type.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. No, Brendan Fraser was completely it for me. He was just like amazing. And it was actually quite disturbing when the whole thing came out of him being also part of the Me Too movement and having experienced difficult or experienced sexual assault within the industry and the mental health challenges that he faced. Like, it was really rough, but it was also, another way to, girl, humanize him. And that's like, I don't know if it's wrong to say, I don't know, but it was comforting to know that even your celebrity crushes, they struggle with the same things that you struggle with,
Yeah. I think that was such an important thing about Me Too in general, to show that with Time's Up, when they had people who worked in vineyards, people who worked as cleaning staff, people in all facets of life have had to deal with this. It is quite comforting in a way to know that what is your shame or what you have dealt with, so many other people have dealt with it too.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's very, like, we have to make clear, it's not comforting to know that someone else experienced pain.
Yeah.
It's just a relatability there that we also feel is removed. As much as we want to remove ourselves with all these reality shows and movies and stuff like that, there are people behind these shows who deal with the same kind of pain that we deal with at the end of the day. And I think, like, sometimes we treat celebrities as discardable. It's a lot. I don't know. It's a lot of things going on.
Well, we got there from, like, who's your first celebrity? To Me Too.
This is why I watch reality TV, because everything's gonna be a fucking serious shit. And I know, I'm a potty favorite, right?
No, man, it's interesting. Like, I think for me, it's like why I do enjoy your podcast is because it's a lot of things that I'm thinking and interested in, and it's nice to hear other people who perhaps know more talking about it. I see you also reading Mermaid Fillet.
Girl.
Fillet. I don't.
Did you read that thing?
I am halfway through.
I'm also halfway. Ciao. Mia does not play.
No. And everything, it's like, I was like, this is so hectic, but written so poetically that I'm like...
Can I just say, Mia Ardeen has brought me out of my dormant reading phase. I'm finally reading again, Mia. Thank you. Because, wow. I am shook. I am taken aback. I am raining period on every hoe, honey. That's all right. Like, get the book.
It's like when I read that in the book, I was like, huh? And then when I think I read it like in the summary or the blurb. And then when I read it in the actual book, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it.
That book is everything. I feel like this is going to be the Kill Bill of our generation for our culture. We just got to get it out there. And I am currently obsessed.
There's so much great writing that's happening right now, like in South Africa, brilliant. But it's so nice to read something that is so colored, but it's also so now. But it's also fantasy. So it's a world where anything can come true, but it's also people that you feel like you know. I love it. Like, I mean, so many other colored books that we read, say colored, but like are books either about the past, like things that happened before, or what's true stories, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't have any fiction, you know?
Yeah.
Or
other than like Mina Africa.
Based on reality. And this has all of that and then some. And I'm actually going to be interviewing Mia tomorrow. I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm obsessed. But anyway, I have to finish the book by then. Ooh. Yeah, no, that book is like, the whole thing is mermaid fillet. Like, nobody thinks about eating A mermaid. Hello. It's all just romantic and
Yeah.
singing songs and octopuses with mermaids, right? So, what are we talking about? And I'm halfway through the book, and I'm just like, I still don't know what's going on for the record. And I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I don't think I got into the point yet where you find out.
It is phenomenal. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about it. It's like there's such relatable topics and relatable places, you know? When you read these other novels, it's like talking about Luxembourg and Soho, all these like seemingly exotic places and stuff. And here we've got Goodwood and Woodstock. And Ravensmead. Are you kidding me? And I love that she's based it sort of on the northern suburb side. And I actually had a conversation with Mia, the author, and we were saying we had a lot because I like to have conversations. Sometimes I have conversations, sometimes I don't. But I had a long conversation with her beforehand because I needed to get to know the person before I have the interview. Because I felt like this book had a level to it that deserved some introspection. Woo, child. But one of the things that we share is that we both lived in the northern suburbs as colored people, or black, as myself, black person now of colored culture. And it was interesting because we were talking about the schools and stuff, and we were like laughing because we shared so many isms with each other and stuff like that. And it was like, yo, finally, we are getting ourselves out here. You've got a book. I'm going to be interviewing you. Secondly, we're coming onto Caryn's pod. We are now even talking about you on Caryn's pod. We are sharing information via our platforms, and everything right now feels so energetic and amazing. And I'm just here for all of it. All of it. Patrick's book is coming out on the 13th, which is like, what's today? It's the 8th today. I can't do math. It's going to be now. And I'm happy, man. Like, we've got so many things going for us right now, and we got to put everything out there. Mermaid, filet, isomalus. Caryn, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. It's so important for all of us to have our voices and to collaborate between our different mediums and platforms. And I want to say, you know, you're doing amazing work on your side. And thank you so much for being a voice of your caliber and of your experience and bringing other voices onto your platform. I appreciate it, and I'm very humbled to be on your show. Thank you.
So that was Tarryn Cardre from What's the Quarantee podcast. You can find her on Instagram at Tarryn Cardre. You can find the podcast at What's the Quarantee on Instagram, at WTQ Pod on Twitter, and What's the Quarantee on Facebook, as well as Facebook groups. So please give her a follow, listen to the show. The show's available wherever you get your podcast. As always, all the links will be down below. Me, you can find at Caryn Welby on Instagram and at Caryn Welbys on Twitter. So that Welbys with the S. You can subscribe to my newsletter, Wildest Dreams. The link will be down below. You can find the podcast at Crushing on Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Don't forget to join our Facebook group, Crushing on Club. Please join. It's so much fun. You can send any feedback to crushingonpod@gmail.com. All our episodes you can find on your feeds or whatever podcast network. Plus, you can find it at our website, which is crushingonpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And please, if you enjoyed the show, tell a friend. word of mouth is our best way of spreading the word. So please tell a friend. All episodes are edited and produced by Rebecca Barches. And thank you so much for listening.